Have you ever wondered how far you would go for a dream? For Daniel and Claire, their dream was simple. Whispered in the quiet of the night, they dreamed of a family, of tiny feet echoing through their home, of a baby's soft cry breaking the dawn. But life, as it so often does, had other plans. After a year of trying, a doctor's sterile office became the place where the quiet dream first began to fracture. "Claire," the doctor said, his voice calm, too calm. "You have a uterine malformation. It will be very difficult for you to carry a pregnancy." The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. That night, as Claire's silent tears fell in the darkness, Daniel held her close and whispered, "We'll find a way." And they did. They embarked on a grueling journey of treatments. Injections, pills, and endless waiting became their new reality. The first attempt failed. The second ended in heartbreak. With each disappointment, Daniel watched a little more of the light fade from Claire's eyes. But they refused to give up. On the third try, something miraculous happened. Claire emerged from the bathroom, hands trembling, holding up the test. "It worked, Daniel," she whispered, her voice breaking. It finally worked. In that moment, all the pain vanished, replaced by a wave of pure, unadulterated joy. They laughed and cried, repeating the word baby, as if it were the most sacred word in the world. The months that followed were pure bliss. Every doctor's visit brought new wonder, the flicker of a tiny heartbeat on the screen, a sound that made the rest of the world melt away. They tracked the baby's growth, from a blueberry to a lime, and then a mango. They laughed, imagining that little mango growing stronger every day. Daniel, who had never built anything in his life, painstakingly assembled a crib by hand. He painted the nursery, wanting everything to be perfect. They chose names, Evelyn for a girl, Noah for a boy. Clarity glowed, her laughter once again filling their apartment. By the 6th month, it felt like their dream was finally, truly real. They took pictures of her growing belly, planned baby showers, and marveled at impossibly tiny shoes in store windows. But dreams, especially the most beautiful ones, can be incredibly fragile. It began quietly as small pain, a slight discomfort. Claire tried to brush it off. Then one night, she woke Daniel, clutching her stomach in tears. The hospital visit that followed changed everything. The doctor's face shifted from concern to alarm. The pregnancy was now high risk. Claire's body was struggling. She was ordered on absolute bed rest. Daniel turned their home into a sanctuary. He cooked, he cleaned, he read to her, pretending not to feel the stone of fear growing heavy in his own chest. He had to be strong for her. But as the weeks passed, the complications worsened. Claire was admitted to the hospital, surrounded by the constant beeping of machines. She tried to smile, to joke about the food, but her exhaustion was a tangible thing. Every night, Daniel would leave her room, walk down the sterile, empty corridor, and allow himself to break, just for a moment, before wiping his tears and returning to her side with a smile. They almost made it. They were so close to the 9th month. One rainy evening, Daniel sat by her bed, holding her hand, talking about how soon they'd finally meet their baby. She smiled weakly. "I can't wait to see you holding our child," she said. It was the last calm moment they would share. "Anarlate!" Demana screamed. Nurses and doctors flooded the room, their voices urgent and overlapping. Daniel was pushed aside, his heart hammering against his ribs. A doctor finally turned to him, his face grave. "We need to perform an emergency C-section. There are serious complications." Daniel nodded, his throat tight. But the doctor hesitated. "There's something you need to understand," he said, his voice dropping low. "This will be a very difficult surgery. There's a risk that we won't be able to save them both. If that happens, we'll need to know who you want us to save." The words didn't make sense. How could he choose? How could anyone possibly make that choice? He couldn't answer. He returned to Claire's side, forcing a smile that felt like a betrayal. He said, "Everything will be fine." He lied. "They're just being careful." She squeezed his hand. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know," he said, his own voice breaking. "But I'm right here. Always." As the nurses wheeled her away, he kissed her forehead. No goodbyes were said. They both knew. Daniel sank into a chair, the silence of the waiting room deafening. He had never prayed before, but now he begged, pleaded with any force that might be listening to save them both. Minutes felt like hours. Then the doors burst open. A nurse, her face pale with panic, rushed towards him. "Sir," she said, breathless, "there are complications. We can't save them both." The words landed like punches, stealing the air from his lungs. Time stopped. He saw Claire's laugh, felt her hand in his, pictured the life they had fought so desperately to build. He thought of their child, the miracle they had almost held. He closed his eyes as his entire world collapsed into a single, unbearable question, a question that would echo in his soul for the rest of his life. If it were you, who would you choose? The woman who is your everything, or the child who represents everything you could ever be?